In this captivating video, join us as we delve deep into the dramatic and epic tale of Cain and Abel from the Bible. Discover the profound story of these brothers and the consequences of their actions. We'll unravel the themes of jealousy, sibling rivalry, and the consequences of our choices. Get ready for a thought-provoking journey that will leave you pondering the universal teachings of this timeless story. Like and share this video to spread the word and join the discussion on this iconic biblical narrative.
In the dawn of time, two souls were brought into existence, Cain and Abel, born under the watchful eyes of Adam and Eve. As the firstborn, Cain was bestowed with the responsibility of tilling the soil. He labored tirelessly under the sun, turning over the earth, planting seeds, and reaping the fruits of his toil. His hands were toughened by the work, his skin bronzed by the sun. His was a life bound to the land, a life of labor and harvest, of watching seeds burgeon into life and mature into sustenance. On the other hand, Abel, the younger of the two, was a shepherd. He spent his days roaming the vast expanses with his flock, under the open sky, amidst the verdant pastures. He knew each of his sheep by name, and they in turn knew their shepherd. His was a life of movement and rhythm, of following the seasons and the grazing grounds, of the quiet companionship of his flock and the solitary contemplation under the stars. Though born of the same parents, Cain and Abel represented two different walks of life. Cain, the tiller of soil, was earthbound, his life intertwined with the cycles of growth and decay, of sowing and reaping. Abel, the shepherd, was nomadic, his life attuned to the movements of his flock and the changing seasons. Their different occupations shaped their lifestyles and their worldviews, etching distinct paths for each brother in the great canvas of life. However, despite their differences, Cain and Abel were inextricably linked by their shared heritage and their shared existence in this primordial world. Their lives were two threads in the same tapestry, two notes in the same symphony, their destinies intertwined in ways they could not yet comprehend. As time passed, Cain and Abel grew, their lives diverging yet intertwined, setting the stage for a tale of rivalry, sacrifice, and divine intervention. In a world fresh from creation, where gratitude was shown through offerings, Cain and Abel brought forth their gifts to God. In the stillness of a time when the earth was young and mankind was even younger, two brothers stood side by side, each with an offering in hand. Cain, the elder of the two, was a tiller of the ground. He labored under the sun, tending to the soil and coaxing forth life from the earth. His hands were rough, his brow was often marked with sweat, but his heart was full of pride for his work. He brought forth the fruits of his labor, an offering of his crops, a tangible testament to his toil and his dedication. Meanwhile, Abel, the younger brother, was a keeper of sheep. He spent his days under the open sky, guiding his flock over rolling hills and through lush valleys. His offering was a different kind. It was one of his best sheep. Abel offered not just the physical creature but also the time and care he had invested in raising it. It was an offering that bore the weight of his patience and his gentle spirit. Yet, in this primeval time, the brothers' offerings were not received equally. God, in his divine wisdom, favored Abel's offering over Cain's. The scriptures do not explicitly state why God preferred Abel's offering. Some suggest it was because Abel offered his best while Cain did not. Others believe it was a matter of the heart, rather than the offering itself. Regardless of the speculation, the fact remained that Abel's offering was accepted, and Cain's was not. This divine preference set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of human history. It was a pivotal moment, one that highlighted the stark difference between the two brothers and sowed the seeds of a bitter rivalry. God found favor in Abel's offering, leaving Cain to wallow in the shadow of his younger brother's success. In the wake of divine favoritism, a seed of jealousy sprouted in Cain's heart, growing into a towering tree of resentment. As the days passed, the seed of envy in Cain's heart began to flourish. It wasn't merely a sprout anymore, it was a thorny bush, scratching and clawing at his peace of mind. Every time he saw Abel, he didn't see a brother anymore. He saw a rival. He saw the favored one. This insidious jealousy began to color his every thought, his every action. It was no longer about the offerings, it was about the favor. This resentment was not an invisible enemy. God, in his all-knowing wisdom, saw the turmoil within Cain. He saw the dark storm brewing in the depths of Cain's heart. So God decided to intervene. He spoke to Cain, warning him of the dangerous path he was treading. God told him, "Sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." These words were not a simple admonishment. They were a lifeline thrown to a man drowning in his own bitterness. God was giving Cain a chance to pull himself out of the dark abyss of jealousy. The message was clear. Sin, like a beast, was waiting to pounce on him, but he had the power to control it. He had the choice to let it consume him or to conquer it. But the words of the divine, rather than soothe Cain, seemed to stoke the fire within him. The warning fell on deaf ears. The beast was not at his door. It was already inside, whispering sweet nothings of revenge and superiority. Cain, instead of taking the lifeline, chose to dance with the beast. He decided to let his jealousy guide his actions, to let it lead him down a path of no return. Despite God's warning, Cain, ensnared by his jealousy, invited Abel to the field. His invitation was not one of brotherly love, but one of deceit, masking a dark intent. Under the vast expanse of the sky, on a field that bore witness to brotherly love, unfolded the world's first act of fratricide. In the stillness of a world still new, Cain, the tiller of the ground, found himself consumed by a rage as old as time itself. It was a rage born of jealousy and resentment, a flame fanned by rejection and a sense of injustice. His offering of fruits of the soil, his sweat and toil, had been looked upon with less favor than Abel's firstlings of his flock. In the solitude of the field, the brothers stood. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the rustling of the wind through the tall grass and the distant bleating of Abel's sheep. It was here that Cain's anger boiled over, his rage no longer a simmering undercurrent but a destructive force. He turned on Abel and in a flash of unchecked fury struck down his brother. The earth, once a silent spectator, now became an unwilling participant in this tragic tale. It opened its mouth to receive Abel's blood, marking this field not just as a place of life and growth, but also as the site of the world's first murder. The heavens above shuddered as God bore witness to this horrific act. His disappointment in Cain was immense, his sorrow for Abel profound. He called out to Cain, his voice echoing across the now blood-stained field, asking him about his brother. But Cain, in his guilt and fear, denied any knowledge of Abel's whereabouts. God, in his infinite wisdom, saw through Cain's lies. The punishment for Cain was severe yet just. Marked by God, Cain was to become a restless wanderer on the earth. His tillage would no longer yield him its strength, his efforts met with frustration and futility. And so, the tale of the first murder ended, leaving in its wake a lesson of the dire consequences of unchecked anger and uncontrolled jealousy. From the ground that opened its mouth to receive Abel's blood, God's voice thundered, proclaiming Cain's fate. Cain and Abel, two brothers bound by blood, yet divided by jealousy, left a legacy that echoes through the ages. Their story, as ancient as it is, still resonates with us today, shedding light on some of humanity's most profound themes: jealousy, responsibility, and the consequences of our actions. The tale of Cain and Abel is essentially a narrative about two brothers, yes, but it is also a story about the human heart, about the seeds of envy that can grow within us if left unchecked. Cain's jealousy of Abel's favor with God led him down a dark path, one that ended in the tragic death of his own brother. This ancient story serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of envy, a power that can shatter even the closest of bonds. Yet the story of Cain and Abel also brings to the forefront the theme of responsibility. Cain, after committing the unspeakable act, attempts to shirk his responsibility, famously asking, "Am I my brother's keeper?" This question, posed thousands of years ago, still reverberates today. It challenges us to consider our own responsibilities not just to our bloodkin, but to our fellow humans. It reminds us that we are indeed our brothers and sisters' keepers. And finally, there are the consequences. The story of Cain and Abel is a testament to the universal truth that actions have consequences. Cain was marked for his crime, forever bearing the weight of his actions. His punishment served as a constant reminder of his transgression, a reminder that our deeds, good or bad, follow us. In their story, we find a timeless lesson, that envy can lead to destructive actions, and that each of us must master our emotions, lest they master us. The legacy of Cain and Abel, then, is not just one of discord and tragedy, but also a legacy of wisdom, a call to introspection, and a reminder of the inherent responsibility we all share towards each other.